about losing, is that?
Yes.
Well, they were highly profitable, and are not highly profitable at the moment. They're making a lot of easy money out of handling government paper, but they're potentially very risky institutions. You saw what happened to Leyland's and the other investment banks. And these are essentially, very, very large hedge funds, and they should operate like hedge funds and not be protected by the British taxpayer. So you're going to have big structural change, and you can have high profits but high risks. And we can't have the British taxpayer underwriting enormous risks in global investment banking institutions. It isn't sensible from a UK PLC point of view. It just makes no sense at all. So we are going to have narrow banks. You can do it in various ways. You can do it in subtle ways, like changing the capital adequacy requirements for different parts of banks and weighting them, and then banks reach their own conclusions that they're better splitting up, or you can take a crude meat cleaver approach and split them up. I'm not sufficient of a technician in this area to know which to recommend, but one or other is going to happen.
On the basis of that question, investment banking is very critical to the profitability of the banks, RBS, Barclays in particular, so why break them up? And secondly, are you ready to accept a position in a coalition government?
Well, the second answer is, as an individual, no. I mean, politics isn't like football. We're part of teams. Footballers can hop from one part of Manchester or one part of Glasgow to the other. We don't do that in politics. We stick with our teams. But where my team finishes up, you can speculate on. But in terms of investment banks, you mentioned Barclays. It's a very good example of why the position is currently very dangerous. Barclays perilously escaped collapsing like RBS. Perilously. They came very, very close to it. And they got away with it by resorting to very expensive Arab money, which has in turn made them very reluctant to lend to UK borrowers, corporate borrowers. But anyway, they did get away with it, and their investment bank is now making pots of money. And they've got a very clearly declared objective of becoming the world's largest investment bank. That's Barcap. But why should the British taxpayer be underwriting them? If they want to be a profitable investment bank, that's okay, but we've got to take away the taxpayer guarantee. That's what's dangerous about it. And that's also what's dangerous about the RBS structure. You cannot have a system whereby banks operate, on the one hand, as if they're freewheeling, maximising shareholder value in the short run, while at the same time enjoying a taxpayer guarantee. It's not stable and it's not sensible.
Well, I think I've given you all a good crack at questions, and I just want to pass over to Dan Macdonald, who's our Deputy Chairman, and say a word of thanks to Vince, but I'm sure you'd all like to applaud his honesty.
Before I thank Vince Cable, I would just like to mention that it's very interesting that Vince has addressed us here tonight. It's at the very heart of Reform Scotland there lies a passion and a focus that is based on the traditional Scottish liberal values. Small L, Vince, I'm afraid. We are responsible for our own destinies, individually and collectively. And I think maybe we need, in these times, to revisit that liberal tradition of the past, which goes back to the Enlightenment and to Adam Smith and David Hume. Post-industrialisation seems to have robbed us in Scotland of much of that free thinking. Let not the demise of our financial sector and all that has gone with it deepen the negativity that accompanies this wound. Let us see instead the return of that free thinking and the positivism that is required to induce change, unearth new opportunities and rebuild. Never has there been a better time than this, in this transitionary period towards a new era to take that responsibility seriously. From my own everyday perspective within the property industry, I see the pain around me, but I see too the opportunity for the creation of new wealth. But I see its success only if we painstakingly work together to find new ventures, work with the public sector and the financial sector, hand in glove, in the spirit of a trust hitherto unknown. In the current chaos, social harmony and new and better ways can emerge, almost naturally, as we struggle together to find ways of working and living with each other in a climate that unshackles mindset and allows people freedom of thought again. The new economics of this new era and what makes us all tick may well emerge as the necessity of change is seen to create, to fund, yes, to fund, and bring to fruition alternative ways of creating wealth from which all of us and the economy of this country will benefit. I listened to Ian Marcus at a property conference presentation last week. Ian is Managing Director of the investment banking side of Credit Suisse and Chairman of the Bank of England Property Forum. Ian said, and this stuck with me, the next phase of property development will be equity driven. Well, that phrase said it all to me, equity driven. It's the total opposite of what we've seen in the last decade. It's a return to only the best quality projects, and it's a return to borrower and lender sharing responsibility. Ian Marcus said too, it's a wonderful time to start a bank. As we see in our new era, the need for smaller government, in Scotland, fiscal power and tax raising ability, more empowerment at local level, as we've heard, and the need for strength within our communities so as they too can take responsibility, the responsibility required of them. I hope too that we will see a new bank of some sort emerge in Scotland. We welcome the initiatives outlined by Vince Cable here tonight, many of them. It is sustained recovery that is important, a calm and rational approach to the inevitable cuts is critical. And investing in education is high on our agenda. But let's see Scottish banking return somehow, in a smaller dimension, and repair the damage that Vince has referred to. A return of maybe a slimmer, more healthy patient out of intensive care, associated with those traditional values that I mentioned. Scottish, old-fashioned liberalism with a small L. Vince. Thank you, Vince Cable. Thank you, guests, and thanks to those who took a table here tonight. I thank you all on behalf of Reform Scotland.